I'll do one more. See how it goes. That wasn't bad though. Here's another one for you. What's happening, guys? Cooper Carter here for G66, and on this week's Fractal Friday, I'm going to take you a little bit behind the scenes of the AM4 beta testers, the Magnificent 7 Jam, which is available to watch on G66's channel right here. I do have the link to that video in the video description so that you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it. A big thanks to Mr. Marco Fantone, grazie mille, my friend, for putting that together and for having us all in the jam. It was really fun to play along to. Now, for my portion of that jam, I did use a factory preset, one of the ones that I designed, and this one is one of my favorites. It's an approximation of my take on the absolutely legendary lead tones from Eric Johnson's incredible 1990 performance at Austin City Limits. My pick for, if not the single greatest live guitar performance of all time, on a very short list, along with Pulse from Pink Floyd, which I also did some tones that approximate that. We'll maybe get into in another Fractal Friday. On the Night, Mark Knopfler, John Petrucci's on Score. There are so many amazing live tones, but this one recreates the two lead tones that he uses during that concert. The first based around a Dumble, which is actually the less used of the two, but this amp block very much looks like what I use when I play live, and I've dialed in some ambience around it to more match the Austin City Limits. The ODS 100 is definitely my go-to amp in the Fractal units. I am guilty of using it probably too much on too many things, but it's such an incredible model, of course, based on just an incredible amp. The much more commonly used bleed sound during that performance, though, is based around just a cranked up Marshall. So I, of course, had to include a scene for that as well. And again, this is my approximation of the Austin City Limits tone. It's very tricky to get this sound exact, especially because, well, I am not Eric Johnson, and no one else is either. And so much, and for so many players this is true, so much of his tone really is just in his fingers. There are many players for whom this is true, but for EJ in particular, I have always just found that so much of it comes from how he actually is touching the fretboard. The ways in which he's actually playing are just so unique to him. And it's very difficult to get the sound without a custom IR as well, which obviously I didn't use in the factory preset because the units don't ship with any user IRs. But also available at the link in the video description is my custom IR based around a tone match of the Austin City Limits lead. And you guys can download that and check it out in either your AM4, your Axe-Fx3, your FM9, or your FM3, which I suppose should bring you to that this is a short video based around one thing. But if you guys want to get the absolute most out of your Fractal Audio Systems unit, whether that is the Axe-Fx3, the FM9, or the FM3, make sure to visit classes.coopercarter.com for my complete Fractal Audio Masterclass series.
So let's take a look at what we've got here. I'm starting with a drive going into an amp, and of course its included cabinet, which is now a combined block in the AM4 versus the Axe-Fx3, the FM9, and the FM3. And we move into a delay and then a reverb. So let's turn off everything except the amp and just check out this first channel of the amp here, which is based around the ODS 100 Ford. Now, I am a big fan of all of the ODS types, the clean, the Ford, and the HRM. I think I use the HRM a little too much. I rely on it a lot, as I mentioned, but I've got the ODS here and we're just in basic mode. It's funny, this almost sounds like a Plexi, but of course, you know, EJ is very much associated with Plexis, and so the Dumble's dialed in somewhat to have a little bit of that same sound. I've got the gain here at about 6.5, 6.35. The overdrive is all the way up to 8. The overdrive volume is all the way up to 10. I've got the presence fairly low, around 3 for a bit of a darker EJ sound. The master is up 6.5, and this amp is, you know, it's cooking. We've got the bright switch on and the presence down, and that gives me the sound I'm looking for, but I also have this preamp boost or PAB switch on. Let's go ahead and we'll listen real quick again. And then here's the preamp boost switch off. So less gain and much bassier. And you'll notice that when we do turn these switches off, the AM4 Edit automatically kicks us over into this a little bit more tweakable mode. We've got the bass, the middle, and the treble now exposed. I do like it with that middle position switch on though. And let's move on down to our cab. For the cabinet, I've got a Dumble style rumble cabinet here with EV12Ls, and we've got a 4x12 and a 4x12. I've got those panned slightly, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And I've got a condenser mic and a ribbon mic on them. So together, they sound like that. If I bring this down though, let's go ahead and pan this to make it a 1-to-1 comparison. So here's my condenser mic. And then here is my ribbon mic. A little bit more of that toppy, sizzly kind of stuff. And if we put this back at 50% and pan these guys back out again to 50 and minus 50. Now, of course, these are both Dynacabs, so we could move the mic around and put this wherever we want it, which is one of the really nice features of the Fractal units here. Just a really solid amp tone, but I want to take it a little bit further. I'm going to stack on top a 4-knob tube drive here, and we get this. Much more saturated, just gnarly. I love it. So gain around 3. I'm not adding a ton of gain here because I don't really need a ton of gain. The amp is already fairly saturated, but I am using this level up fairly high. And again, I'll give you a little AB here. So just endless sustain, incredible squish there. I love this pedal, and I use it a lot as well. So we've got that going, and of course for Eric Johnson, we're always going to have some delay. Here we go with a deluxe Mind Guy, of course, based on the Memory Man delay. A nice subtle delay there. I like to dial in my delays so that you kind of feel them more than hear them. The audience shouldn't necessarily, in my mind, at least for this sort of lead, be immediately taken aback by how much delay appears on a tone. It should just kind of feel like the whole room has expanded and gotten a little bit bigger. I love this delay because it shows you really what a Fractal is all about. It gives you the incredible recreation of an amazing classic pedal with the specificity and the precision of Fractal's ability to dial in exact values. So I love mixing a little bit of that rock and roll looseness with the kind of precision that we're able to get from units like the AM4 here. And then, of course, one of the most important parts of this sound is a little bit of modulation. There's a 25% modulation depth that's happening at about 0.7, so that makes those repeats not that sterile digital sound, more modern kind of thing. You can hear there's some modulation happening. We'll turn that off, and we're getting just a perfect recreation of that sound. There we're getting a little bit of that warble, which is just so nice. Let's go ahead and turn on the reverb here, though. and I've got the music hall, and this takes us firmly into the ACL territory. So let's move up to scene 2. Here, everything remains the same except for the amp and the drive. So let's go ahead and kick off our delay and our reverb again, and we'll kick off the drive to start. We've got a Plexi 100 watt high. The gain is up to around 6.5. Now on EJ's rig itself, you would probably find this a good bit higher with the drive pedal doing a little bit less work. I here have kind of swapped that around. It just fits my playing a little bit better. Is that the most accurate recreation of how EJ would have it? Probably not, but again, I'm not Eric Johnson. So again, we've got this here. Without the drive on, a little low gain, and probably a bit dark as well. Let's check out the cabinet here. I've got one cab for this one, the 4x12 1960 TV, one of my go-to cabs. Again, I'm using the ribbon mic here, and it sounds like this again. But if we turn on this dynamic as well, get a little bit more crunch and sizzle in there, which can be really nice. So do decide if one of those works better for you than the other does, and choose your IRs at will. Of course, we've got Dynacabs here as well, so we could change that around to reposition the mic on the speaker. Let's go ahead and turn on this drive though. I've moved over to the 3-knob tube drive based on the Butler, which EJ and others have made very, very popular and famous indeed. So here's the amp. And again, we have the same delay and the same reverb to give us this different EJ lead sound. I love it. So let's quickly though swap in this IR I was referring to in the intro. I want to show you guys one more preset though that I didn't use in the AM4 beta testers jam, but I very much designed in tandem with this preset here. And in showing you guys this preset, I want to show you guys something about the AM4 itself, which is that when you think 4 blocks, you think, okay, I have 4 blocks to build my sound with. That feels more limiting perhaps than an XFX3 or an FM9 or even an FM3. And I want to show you how something that might seem limiting about the AM4 is in fact actually easier to use and much more powerful than you think at first glance. We've got a studio Eric Johnson clean sound. I then have the ACL sound, which has a good bit more reverb and a good bit more delay. Then there's a scene with no time-based effects, so just a dry clean. Which, given a recent Fractal Friday, kind of makes me think of this sound. And then finally, there's a scene that utilizes the enormous cumulonimbus. Try saying that 5 times fast. The enormous cumulonimbus reverb, which of course is based on the larger reverb Strymon effects. There is a full 30 seconds of reverb here. So relaxing. But let's kick back up to this studio scene here, kind of based around the clean tones from Avia Musicom and Tones, some of the earlier Eric Johnson albums, but really his clean has remained fairly consistent throughout his career. Of course, I mentioned those 2 albums, and then I play something from Venus Isle, but SRV is just such a great track. So again, AM4, 4 blocks, amp, chorus, delay, reverb, but you hear some compression in there, and it almost sounds like there's a compressor pedal on, and of course, a compression pedal is so key to Eric Johnson's clean sounds. Where is that compressor coming from? Well, let's kick over into Expert Edit here. Boom. lots of new options. We're going to go to the power amp section. And on this output compressor, I have set to the type output, and I've cranked it up to about 6. So here it is at 0. Just a wide open vibroverb amp. But if we bring this compression up, let's say to 6 or so, the output starts to compress. So what I get is basically a compressor pedal, but it's after the amp. So it's a little bit more, let's say, like a studio compressor. But it absolutely gives us the compressed sound that we're looking for out of this tone. So don't think that just because there are only 4 blocks in the AM4 that you're limited to thinking in terms of 4 effect blocks. And I'm definitely going to do a video coming up here for Fractal Friday on the various different things that are hidden within each of these blocks that allows us to get more than really just 4 blocks out of the AM4. The other obvious one on the amp being that we don't necessarily need a drive pedal, because if we go to the preamp here, we can turn on the input boost and then select a type based on all of these different drives, much like you can in the other Fractal units.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video and taking a look at these presets. I did do more factory presets, as I mentioned, for the AM4, and maybe over the next couple weeks we can take a look at some of those. I know there is one in particular that you guys are probably going to be using a lot if you watch my videos, and that you guys are probably pretty stoked to get your hands on in the AM4. I'm going to have to actually update the Asphex 3, the FM9, and the FM3 versions of this preset, because this one is definitely now the kind of definitive version when it comes to matching very closely this artist's rig. So we will definitely have to check that one out in the next couple weeks. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do make sure to subscribe to G66's channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave me a comment in the comment section below letting me know what you want to see on a future Fractal Friday. As we move into 2026 here in a couple of weeks, there are some very special tone tours that are on the schedule. These are ones that have been on there for a long time now that I am very excited to get to you guys. As always, if you guys want to get the absolute most out of your Fractal Audio Systems unit, whether that's the Asphex 3, the FM9, or the FM3, make sure to visit classes.coopercarter.com for my complete Fractal Audio Masterclass series. For all things Fractal Audio, keep it right here on G66, and I will see you guys next week on Fractal Friday.